All right, before we get into this, I just want to make one thing clear. This isn't going to be flashy like the montage going on in the background. There's no crazy edits or clips every 2 seconds. This is going to be straight information. If you're here just to be entertained, this probably isn't the video for you. If you actually want to understand what's happening in your games, like what I'm breaking down in this clip right here, why you're dying and how better players always seem one step ahead, then you need this. Also, this video is very, very long. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but that's because this is one of the most important things you can actually learn in Fortnite. This video is all about awareness and game sense, how to read fights before they happen, stop getting caught off guard, and make smarter decisions in every situation you possibly can. This is what separates average players from the ones who feel in control. So if you're serious about improvement, stick with me and let's get right into it. All right, so first thing I want to kind of go over is like map awareness and stuff about that, because you need to really know the map, where all the loot is on the map, any changes to the map, like any constant updates, and all of this to really be locked in and focused on your game sense and your awareness and just everything on the map. If you don't know anything about the map or where things are on the map, you're going to be a lot more confused than people that know everything about a map. So what I want you guys to do, especially at the beginning of seasons or when new maps drop, like the reload map was dropped today, the new reload map, you're going to go onto Fortnite.gg and you can change like OG, you can do reload, you can do the new one. See, like here's the new reload map. And what you're going to do is you're going to turn on spawns. Now you're going to look around the map and you're just going to basically look around where all the loot is and everything like that. And you can do this once again for any map. I'm going to go back to the Battle Royale because it's a better, more sustained map and there's a lot more loot and stuff like that. So you guys should have your drops already at this point in the season, but if you don't, this is a great way to find your drop. But basically what I'm going to go over is you're going to look at the entire map every season. And every update, if there's map changes, like for example, there was map changes to right here where this whole POI got taken out. At the beginning of the season, this was changed, and halfway through the season, this area was changed too. And that's about it that I know of as of right now. But what you're going to do is you're going to basically look around at each little area and you're going to look at the loot. Like there's a chest on this mountain, bushes, obviously, more chests. And you're going to just make like kind of like a mental note of where all these things are, because later on you might need them in your matches, your ranked matches, your tournaments. You might need heals, you might need a slur barrel, so you can know that they're right here. So basically you're going to just make a mental note of everything. So you're just going to kind of glide across the map and basically look at everything. Look which places have good loot, which places have good metal, where there's height, where there's low ground, all these little things where good rotations could be through these mountainous areas, like rifts right here, and just basically look around the map. And you can choose a drop spot based off of this, because once again, if you choose a drop based off of how much loot there is and other stuff like that, you can create multiple different splits, and then you just master that and you create your own loot path, and then you are literally set for tournaments. Once again, we're just going to go around, look for all these loot. Like I'm not very aware of my lower bottom right corner. I've never been in this area, so like new sanctuary, like there's a bunch of chests, there's rare chests, and once again, not all these are 100% spawn rates. Basically, after we take a picture of all these areas and like where all the loot is in our brain, we're gonna actually go into the game and we're gonna go and loot all of these areas. So like, yeah, once again, like rare chests, slurp barrels, all of this stuff. There's like little mountains around the area, so this is the ultimate low ground in this area, and then there's mountains around it, surrounding it. Just take little mental notes of that. There's like zip lines. And once again, just keep going around and just checking every little thing. And if you really want to get really intricate, like say for example, this is my drop, know where every chest is. So chest up here, there's multiple chests down here with chug barrels, chest right here, 2 chests right here, 2 chests right here, chest right here, 2 chests right here, and then all this loot down here, and then once again slurp truck down here. I've memorized this whole area. I know where all the chests, ammo boxes, and everything is, so forth. So once again, just take a mental note. And you guys can change the things on the left to make it so it's more competitive, like thing. So you can turn on vending machines and mending machines and basically just check around, and like you can turn on produce boxes, fishing spots, fishing rods, all of these things, reboot vans, just so you guys can get a good look at all this. And yeah, vaults and chaos cubes and stuff like that. Once again, once after you take a mental note and you know what's like the whole map, then we're going to go back into Fortnite and you're going to just queue up into a regular unranked match. You can do this in ranked. I would just say do it in unranked, because what we're going to do is we're going to go on the map, land somewhere where we barely land or we have not a lot of knowledge about, and we're going to go and loot the whole area and then just find loot around that area too, so we can, once again, if you actually put your practice into play, you will remember things instead of just like looking at the map from a top view. If you actually go on the map and look for stuff in the map and find the stuff, then you'll have a way better chance of finding it later in other games or tournaments or stuff once again. All right, and once we load in, we're going to choose the part of the map that like we don't go to really, and as you guys can see, Builder Barracks, New Sanctuary, Dark Dominion, Squibbly Shores, and Frigid Fortress. I played all of these in tournaments and stuff, but I actually haven't played regular Battle Royale with these. So we're going to go to New Sanctuary because that is somewhere I've basically never been this entire season. Once again, we're still going to try and get a good drop because getting good drops to every POI is something you guys should also learn as well. But we'll get, once again, more into that a little bit later on. The main thing we need to cover right now is map knowledge because map knowledge literally plays into everything else inside of Fortnite. All right, so we're going to land here. We're going to take a note of where the ground loot spawns are too, just so we can remember those for later on. Once again, we're going to come over here real quick and we're just going to kill this kid. Once again, take a picture. Like there's ground loot right there sometimes. Ammo box right here where zip lines are, just so that when you come through the POI, once again, you'll remember everything. And usually open up the stuff because that makes your mental will think about it more later on. Once again, another thing, another chest. One thing you will also learn about the Fortnite map is a lot of chests and ammo boxes are on top of things, and a lot of chests are on the ground. Or they're on a single layer. Ammo boxes usually play above stuff or other stuff like that. You can also take mental notes of bricks and stuff like that. Once again, just there's vending machines, ammo things, more ground loot. There's even a boss here or a guy to talk to. Once again, the main thing in this battle royale match is just looting everything, not necessarily even playing the game. It's just getting a good thought process of where everything is. And so check every room, check every ammo box, every ground drop, everything like that. And once again, zip lines and other stuff like that, and even the vaults. All right, we're gonna open up this vault. Once again, if you guys can, make a mental note of everything in the vault as well, because you might need it for later on in other matches. Once again, after you kind of loot a whole area, there's a chest in there, but I'm not gonna get it because I already have a good loot, then you're just gonna go and you're gonna do the same thing for either the rest of the match, or you can just play the rest of this match out. But yeah, that's basically all you're gonna do. So once again, I've been fighting a little bit of people, but I've been kind of just running around making little mental notes of where loot is and everything like that. And once again, just do this for the entire map. And if you guys have played enough Battle Royale, Reload, or anything, this map knowledge will kind of just come to you as you play more on the map, because once again, you'll just be randomly looting special areas. Zones will pull certain ways and stuff like that. So you guys, a lot of you guys won't even need this part because you do have super good map awareness. But once again, if you do not know every part of the map, do this and go through every POI, every little area, and just find little things like that. But now with the map awareness, we can hop into the next section of this, which is going to be predicting storms and storm knowledge. All right, so basically for storm knowledge, the best way I like to do this, either go into my own ranked or tournament games and watch the zones and stuff like that, or you guys can just go into, once again, pro tournaments and you guys can just watch how their zones pull. You can do this any other way. It's not that hard, but the main thing is we're just going to watch zones, see how they pull, and what they do. So for example, this is a win right here. So we're going to watch this because we're going to be able to watch all the way to the end of it. Now, what we want to do is we want to skip kind of further into the match because once again, we're only here for these zones. We're not here for the gameplay or anything else. If you guys want to watch the gameplay too, that is totally fine. I am just here for the zones. That's all I'm here for. So if we go right here, you guys can see that in 20 seconds, the first zone will pop. So you guys can skip to those 20 seconds, or you can just wait, watch the gameplay and everything like that. And basically what we're going to be watching for is where the zone pulls. And then based off that, where that zone pulls, we're going to predict or try and predict where the next zone will pull. So you guys will get better at this the more you do it, or the more games you play. Once again, all this thing can be done in thousands of hours worth of gameplay, or even a couple hundred hours of gameplay. But if you guys really want to maximize your potential and amount of where the zones are going to pull, you guys can do this. So we're going to pause it right here, and we're going to just look at where zone pulled. So it pulled further down to this lower bottom part. So I'm just going to guess that it's going to pull more this way. And I might be completely wrong because sometimes zones are completely random. But there is usually a pattern with zones. So I'm going to just predict that it's going to pull more down this way. And then once again, we're just going to kind of just skip ahead about a minute in front. And we're going to just see where the next zone pulled. And then based off that prediction of the last one, we're going to make another prediction. So we're going to open this up. So if we look at the zone, it actually did pull where I thought it was going to pull. So the first zone pulled this whole area. Second zone pulled once again more into this lower area, into this corner, which makes me think that the third zone is either going to pull right here or right here. I'm not sure if it's going to pull fully bottom left corner, but one of these 3 areas. Once again, you can use these predictions to actually plan your rotates when you're in the game. So if you're, once again, like this team up here, and zone pulled down twice down here, you're going to want to come more down to this lower part or in this central area right here, because if it does pull right here, here, or here, you'll have a really simple rotate. So that's basically what we're doing. We're trying to predict and basically take an example and reposition yourself to that area, if that makes sense, just so you guys can get this habit into your brain, and then you guys can use this in your own games. So once again, we're going to skip ahead and we're going to try and look for the 3rd zone. Now, once again, I was right again. I didn't think it was going to fully pull down into this bottom left corner right here, and it did kind of pull more to the side. So it pulled twice down and then again down, but to the left a little bit. And once again, these teams that are up here, they could have been in this area and been safe. But once again, this is a pro lobby, so a lot of people stay out in the storm later on. But now, based off this zone, we're going to predict where the next zone is going to be. And honestly, I think it's going to still pull like either down here or up here. I don't think it's going to pull this very back corner. I might be wrong, but I think it's going to pull up here or down here. And once again, you're just going to go and skip ahead a couple minutes, because zones do take a couple minutes until you get later on in the game. Now, that one I was wrong about. I thought it was going to pull up here or down here, but it actually kind of pulled back. And you'll see this a lot in most zones. It will pull down 3 or 4 zones in the same kind of area, and then it'll kind of shift sides, and then it'll kind of shift sides again. So it basically makes the rotates a lot harder. So once again, pull down here all the way, then it kind of pushed back into this area. So I'm either thinking it's going to pull down this way again, because it's going to go the opposite, or it might pull up here. Once again, one of these 2 areas, and I might be completely wrong, but based off of my knowledge of the game, that's where I'm going to kind of question where it's going to go. And once again, these are predictions, and you're not going to always be 100% right in any of these. So once again, we're going to scoot forward another 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. And this one, I was a little bit right. I was saying it was either going to pull up here or down here, and I was once again right. It kind of did the opposite. So it pulled down here 4 ways or 3 ways, and then the 4th zone pulled back here, and then this zone pulled back right here. So once you kind of get into these zones, they're kind of predictable once again, but they start pulling out a storm. So I think the next one's going to pull like this way, and or I might be completely wrong and I might pull this way. So let's just see. And once again, if you guys want to get even better at this stuff, you guys can kind of write how these zones pull down and how they pull and stuff like that, just so you guys can get better map knowledge. And then you can kind of see patterns. So like 3 pulled down, 4th pulled up and back, then 5th was the opposite, 6th pulled down again, so similar to 1, 2, and 3, and then 6th zone kind of pulled the similar way that 5th zone pulled. So then when you go into the next game, you can kind of use that same strategy and see any like differences and similarities between the 2. And once again, it pulled down this way, and these zones, usually after this zone, you don't have to worry too much about predicting the next zone, because they're all going to be super close and rotating zones either way. But once again, I think it's going to pull out more towards storm. So I'm thinking it's going to be either here or here. And then once again, you're going to come back and you're going to skip another 3 to 5 minutes. And I was wrong once again, but it didn't pull here or here. It actually pulled back upwards. So you can once again write that down and see how it pulled and compared to the other zones. And so it pulled up once again right here. And then when these zones go, once again, you don't really have to predict them, because you're all going to be moving anyways. So these games, you kind of focus more on playing them out and playing in these zones, and you just mark the zones as they go. That's kind of how they are. It's sometimes good to predict them, but sometimes not. So once again, based off of this zone, I think it's going to pull into storm once again, because now they're all pulling into zone. So I'm either thinking, because it's Fortnite, it's going to pull up the mountain, or it's going to pull further down this way. Once again, skip another 3 to 5 minutes. And if you guys want to get better at these 2, you guys can just watch these full end games out of how they pull and stuff like that. And I was actually completely wrong. It pulled all the way back down into Battlewood Boulevard. Once again, you're kind of just all moving throughout this zone, so it won't matter too much. But yeah, you guys are going to just keep doing that, and you guys can do this like 2 games a day, doing this and writing stuff down, and then comparing. Seeing the differences and similarities in the matches will help you like work your brain into how these zones work. And then once again, another great thing you guys need to do, especially if you're going to be playing tournaments or any competitive, is writing down when storm surge hits in these zones, and how much storm surge you need for each zone, and players in each zone. So like for example, for storm surge to hit in one zone, there has to be 65 players, or for storm surge to hit in the fourth zone or whatnot, there has to be 80 players alive. So you need to get those zones down with how many players need to be alive for storm surge, and then the average amount of storm damage for those actual like fully closed zones, so you guys know what the average is going to have to be, so that when you do get into your tournaments and your matches, you guys can figure out, oh, I need 300 surge damage before the 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th zone. You get what I'm saying? And then once again, once you guys do that, then you guys will have basically full map awareness and storm knowledge, and having both of those are actually really strong, because you'll know where most zones are going to pull over most people, and you'll know more about the map and where you can hide and where launch pads are, and more map knowledge than most of the people in your game as well. But now we're going to move on to the next thing. All right, so now I'm going to just go into a creative map and actually explain some of these other things that you guys are going to be utilizing for awareness and basically game sense, and we're going to talk about each one individually. I'll show you guys some examples of them and what to do in certain situations and stuff like that. And then once again, this whole video is super long and just information based, so if you guys do need to save it and watch again, I highly recommend it. And if you are enjoying the video so far, make sure to leave a like and comment down below what you think of the video so far. We're just gonna hop into 1v1 map, and then I'll show you guys some things from here on out. All right, so most of these things I've already covered, like fighting awareness, defensive awareness, and all these other things I've kind of covered in 2 of my previous videos that are similar to these types of videos, where they're very informational and stuff like that. So if you guys want, go watch those videos after this one. And I will be dropping like the full like 1.5 hour guide with all of the 3 videos combined, so you guys can just sit and binge watch that type of video, and that will be coming out soon. But basically what I'm going to just cover are some of the little things that are in Fortnite that have to do with awareness, and that will really help with your game sense and stuff like that. So one of the first things I want to talk about is audio awareness. Now, a lot of you guys rely heavily on what you guys know as visual sound effects, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but knowing what sounds go with visual sound effects and other things like that is very important. So for example, like if you hear if you see footsteps and you know the person is around you, you need to use your audio to figure out where they are around you. So like for example, if you see footsteps close to you, you can tell they're either below you or above you based off of different sound cues. And that's basically what I want you guys to learn. I can't really show you it in my own 1v1, but like, for example, like if you're in this box and you hear footsteps and you hear someone and you hear a certain sound cue, you should know that they're above you, which will give you the information, all the information you know, to do something like this. So it's basically like just using your sound cues that you know. And Fortnite is very big on sound cues. They added visual sound effects, which helps a lot. But other games don't have visual sound effects, so you have to know your audio cues. So like games like Rainbow Six Siege, games like Valorant, all these different types of things lead to different like either different utility usage, different heals, different guns, all that type of stuff. You guys need to be able to tell those types of things just off of the audio. And I know a lot of you guys don't do that, and that's what really sucks for a lot of you guys, is your guys' awareness with audio sucks, which makes your overall awareness so much worse, like just running through a map and whatnot. It just makes it so much worse because you guys can get caught off guard so easily. Now, another thing that kind of goes with audio awareness is just overall awareness of yourself and people around you. So I see a lot of you guys, like, for example, rotating through zones. Let's just say I'm rotating through zones, or I'm just rotating on the map in Battle Royale, and I'm just running this way, and you guys are just, like, looking in the direction you're running. And you guys aren't doing any movement. You're just literally running like this, or maybe you're jumping, sliding, sliding, no sprinting in between. So what I want you guys to do instead, and which is going to help you guys be a lot more aware of your surroundings and things that are happening around you, is when you're running, just kind of like run in the direction, but like you can like turn, you can like sprint, use different types of movement, and just look around you and other stuff like this. And this is really easy with a duo because one person can be like looking like this way, and another person can be looking like this way, so you have both directions covered, and so you guys can't get caught off guard. So that kind of goes with audio awareness, because once again, you guys can hear audio cues and know where they're coming from. But then also, once again, this is just regular awareness, so you guys know what's happening around you and when. and stuff like that. Now, a lot of things that you guys don't know about is there's a lot of different types of awareness in the game. And there's a lot, these awarenesses go in basically every other shooter game as well. So there's something called timing awareness, there's third-party awareness, there's fighting awareness, there's defensive awareness, there's a layer awareness, so like which layer you are on. Basically everything you do in the game, there's some sort of awareness or game sense to it. And so game sense, people like to talk about it as an overall type of thing, like you just need better game sense. And they're really vague about what that actually means. So for example, like most people and most videos, they'll just tell you, well, if you want to get the best awareness and game sense, all you need to do is take more fights and play more games. And yes, they're right. But you're not going to have the same awareness as a tier 1 pro player if you just started, if you just play the game. Because they already have 4,000 to 8,000 hours of gameplay over you. So there's no way you're actually going to be able to like know, oh, when this shot is shot, it's a chaos reloader shotgun. Or when this gun's shot, it's a pistol. Or based off of how long a heal is, you don't know what heal it is. So there's little things like that. So yes, it is, the more you play, the better your game sense and awareness will be. But at the same time, the more you break specific things down and actually apply it to your like mental, the faster you will be able to get it. So you can get the awareness of someone that's played 4,000 hours well within 500 hours if you're focusing on it. So I'm going to go into timing awareness, which is one of the most underrated skills in Fortnite. So that's like when to fight, when to rotate, when to basically box up, when to hold players, when to predict when players are going into certain areas, literally everything that has to do with timing. So edits, builds, all of that stuff. And usually you guys die in game or in your rotations or just to random things because your timing is slightly off. That's the thing that top tier pros have that 99% of you guys don't have, which is perfect timing. In my last video, I actually broke down a team that had like the most amazing timing for rotations, and it was really crazy. So I recommend you guys going and checking that out after this video as well. But once again, it's just like timing. There's timing in when you edit, there's timing in when you place builds, there's timing in when you full box someone, shoot, and when they're going to respond, stuff like that. So just focus on your timing. Basically a way to focus on your timing with building and editing is just the same time you like press to edit, you actually do the edits, and then you release or you press the key command once again. But this is basically just going off of game sense and awareness. So like timing of when to rotate zones, which we kind of went over a little bit. It's just basically choosing when to do certain things. So when you rotate, you should wait to rotate until some other people rotate, so you're not the first one, so you don't get beamed, or you're not the last one, so you get fried. Certain things like that. Another thing you guys need to be aware of is third-party awareness, because a lot of you guys like to third-party. I know everyone third-parties in Fortnite. That's just how the game is. But a lot of you guys third-party incorrectly because your awareness is actually horrible when you go into third-party. So for example, let's say a team is fighting right here on this box, and you see, oh, like you're over here, and you're like, oh, you see them fighting, right? So you're like, okay, you know there's at least 2 people here fighting. A lot of you guys will just run up and wait, or run up and just start fighting right away. Like try and take their wall and full piece them and kill them, right? Like who wouldn't want to do that? You want to fight. But what a lot of you guys need to do is when you're actually rotating to them, you need to be looking around, just making sure that you're the only third party, because if you get third partied while third partying someone, there's going to be 4 to 8 players, depending on what type of like game mode you're playing, that are pushing the same player, and that's going to make it a lot harder to get a kill and get out or reset and re-engage. So once again, if you're about to third party someone, but you see, oh, there's a player right there, you can either try and take a fight with that player, but I wouldn't recommend it, because then you'll get kind of pushed if this fight like fizzles out and one of the players dies, and then you start fighting a player like this, then they might third party you. So you can either spray at them and then stay back off, and that kid still might third party him, or they might just like stay over there. Or if there's no one third partying them, you can third party them. Now, what a lot of you guys do wrong when third partying someone is you third party without knowing too much about the third party. So for example, the people fighting, most of the time you can see like them fighting, because a lot of people will fight out in the open. They're not super aware of like their boxes and stuff around them. So let's say, for example, you just run up and you just third party without any knowledge of the fight whatsoever. Someone could come from height, someone could come from below by the side of you. I mean, even if you box up and you're taking this wall right here, you're still fighting someone right here, and he could come out of nowhere and third party you, which we don't want to happen. So you guys need to wait for the perfect moment. Once again, this ties into timing awareness. And it's like, For example, if he's pushing and you see one of the players get cracked, or you see one of the players box up and try and heal, that is a good time to third party, because you can either get the kill on the person that's healing, or you can get the kill on the person that is trying to force every single fight of things on the player. And you want to basically, you're just trying to fight and get a kill, and then you can take another 1v1. That's what I'm getting at. So, but you also need to decide which player you're going to go for. You're going to go for the fully healthy player, which is going and fighting and trying to get into the box of the player healing, or you're going to fight the player that's healing because he's already getting pressured, and you can pressure him together, kind of pinch him and get the kill on him. And it depends on the scenario once again, but you guys need to make that decision for yourself. And the only way you guys are going to get better at the timing and awareness of those third parties and those decisions is if you actually do third party and stuff like that. So once again, you have to do it in the actual game to actually learn that type of stuff. Now, a lot of things that you guys don't know about is like layer awareness. Now, a lot of you guys, when you guys are in end games, are super cooked when you guys are playing in end games. A lot of you guys will just literally sit in the middle layer the entire time. And I mean, that's not a problem. But like, for example, if it pulls up zone, you're going to be pulling up into the people that are in height looking down at you. And if you're in the upper layer of mid, like if you're in the upper part of the mid layer, the height is just going to spray at you. But if you're on low ground, you're going to get kind of cooked because you have to go up through all the other mid layer players. So there's like a happy medium of finding where you need to be and when. If you know the zone's going to pull up a mountain and you have to tarp upwards, you want to be kind of in the middle of everyone, and you want to be super protective of going up. But if it pulls down once again, you might want to drop from your middle layer, like right here, to ultimate low ground, because ultimate low ground is a super strong position, especially going downwards, because it's really easy to just stay on low ground. And people that are on low ground usually don't have as many fights because you don't have to worry about people below you, but you can still look at people that are above you and stuff like that, and you won't get sprayed from height because you're not on that layer. But then another thing you guys need to also be like aware about is being on height and being aware of height awareness. So like, for example, being on height, and there's certain ways you guys can tarp around zones. So like, stay on the full right side of zone so you can see the entire zone and stuff like that. There's things like that. But what I'm talking about for layer awareness is knowing where the second height is at all times, and knowing where zone's pulling and if anyone could shockwave up onto you and stuff like that. And a lot of pros are really good at this because they'll like have a person on the back part, or they'll have someone on the front part. If you're in solos, you can kind of just watch both. But your main goal is to stay a couple layers above second height, just so it's very hard for someone to get height over you. And it's also another thing that you guys need to know for layer awareness is when to switch from height to get to mid ground. Like, say if you're running out of mats, you're like, okay, like I don't have a lot of mats, I need a refresh, but I still have a little bit of mats. You're gonna drop to mid ground so you can take fights and you can get a kill, or you can look from height, get a kill, grab loot, and build back up. Another thing though is you don't want to be too high up when you are on height. So say for example, this is second height right here. This box right here is second height. You want to be at least 2 to 3 layers above, but you do not want to be more than that. So being up here is way too far above second height, I think. You're going to be, I mean, once again, they can still shockwave up on you in third, like if they're only 3 layers below you, even 4 layers, but you don't want to be super high off the ground because it makes you way easier to shoot down. And when you do get shot down, you can die to fall damage once again. So you want to be more aware, build like 3 layers or 2 layers above, and stuff like this. So yeah, it's just knowing when to do all those different things of changing layers and all that other stuff like that. And once again, this kind of ties into timing, when you need to, when you don't need to, and stuff like that. And people that play low ground, I feel like survive a lot longer than people that play mid or high ground, just because they're only getting sprayed from, they can only get sprayed from 1 layer above or on the side. Instead of mid ground, you can get sprayed from all angles, and height, you can get sprayed from bottom or side. But yeah, that goes with layer awareness. And then the next thing that kind of ties into layer awareness, or just the game in general, is resource awareness. So not just your mats, but everything, your ammo, when your guns are reloaded, how much shockwave uses you have left, how many uses in your movement you have left, how long it takes for that movement to like reset, like the gloves, how long does it take to fill them all up all the way? It's kind of just stuff like that. So just remembering all those little things. So what I like to do is, before I rotate to a next zone, is I like to make sure all my guns are reloaded. I know how much mats I have. I always switch to my harder materials before I rotate, just so that when I do rotate and I need to box up right away, I can box out of harder materials and just stuff like that. It's also like changing materials when you're rotating. So like when you're rotating, obviously like this, and someone's trying to spray at you, you want to use your wood first, and then your brick, and then last resort is your metal. But then when you get into zone, you want to either box out of brick or you want to box out of metal, just so you have, it's way harder for people to get into your actual boxes. Never box out of wood unless it's literally your last resort, because people can just two-touch your wall and full piece you once again. So it just ties into all of that. And this once again ties into mechanics, and which is why I'm going to be putting the mechanics videos with this video, which will be an 1.5 hour long guide, basically just about everything that you guys need to know for tournaments and comp and mechanics and everything basically like that. Now I was going to go into like your mental awareness and your composure, but I've already made multiple videos on that. Basically, you guys just need to stay calm. You guys can rage for a second, but you need to compose yourself and actually lock back in, because if you don't compose yourself and you're in a tournament, it's just wraps. It's just wraps and you'll just die. But also another thing I would like to point out is like damage of weapons. Now, a lot of people don't go into depth on these things because it's kind of simple, but you guys should know the damage output of every single weapon. You should know how much damage a pistol does to body, how much it does to a head, and same thing with shotguns, how much it does to body, how much it does to a head, how much it does to the feet, similar stuff to that. You should also know how much it does to a wall. So like, for example, the gold chaos reloader will take 3 shots to break a fully built wood wall, whereas a pistol takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. So when you're pushing a box, instead of just spraying like this and wasting ammo, especially if you're low on ammo, you can predict it and you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just break another box perfectly, timing it and everything like that, which once again ties back into timing. But that's just something else I wanted to talk about for a bit, is just covering that little bit of, remember, every season, go over all the weapons, play with all the weapons, learn everything about them, and kind of just put them into play and stuff like that. All right, now that we've gone over some of the more basic stuff and I've kind of explained most of the basic stuff, we're gonna actually go into some of the deeper and like more like thought process of those certain things. So I'm gonna go over once again like audios and stuff like that. Even though we did go over the basics of it, we're gonna go more in depth. And what really separates like really good players from like just mediocre or mid players like myself, you know? Anyways, the first thing we're going to talk about once again is sound and information interpretation. Now, you might say, well, Flo, that sounds kind of crazy. What are you talking about of interpretation of information? Well, it's like, you know how you hear footsteps or you see footsteps on your screen and you just say, oh, there's someone nearby. Instead of just saying, oh, there's someone nearby, a good player will immediately ask the questions, where are they? What layer are they on? Are they healing? Are they looking for a fight? Is it a solo or is it a duo? Do they know where I am or do they not know where I am? And it's stuff like that. Or it's like if you hear like someone reloading. So like, for example, I shoot and I reload and footsteps like slowing down, or you hear footsteps and then they stop. They're either healing and it's a free time to push, especially if you hear heals being popped, or they're trying to sneak up on you or someone else, so you need to be more careful. Another thing is like someone just like sprinting and like spamming builds and edits. It usually means that they're about to fight someone or they're going to fight someone, which means you could probably wait for the third party. And I kind of already covered most things about third parties and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like simple little things of from sound that you get to make certain decisions based off of. So what you need to use is your audio and like, well, obviously your visual sound effects, and then predict what those players are going to do based off of that, which is just a little bit deeper than what we talked about earlier on. The next thing I want to talk about is player count and the lobby awareness. So what you guys want to always know is how many people are left in the lobby, how many people landed in your POI, and how many people are left in your POI after a fight or two, and how many are like rotating in your layer once you're in an end game. So we kind of already talked about layers and before this and like rotating an end game, but you want to be on a layer where not everyone is. If there's like 7 or 8 people on your layer, I almost said 6 or 7, you want to change layers so you're on a layer where there's a lot less people, because then you have a lot less like chance of getting shot or like fought basically and dying in end game. So there's stuff like there's certain points in the map where it's like if there's 50 people left in like the 4th zone, then it might be a stacker and it might not be, but your main goal should be to survive there. But if there's like 20 to 30 people alive, you'll probably want to like in the 4th zone, you'll want to rotate early, or you'll want to do a lot of your stuff earlier on, because you have a way lower chance of actually seeing someone on the map when you're doing stuff like that. And once again, if there's like 10 to 15 people alive in that last zone, you can literally just go to the center of zone and control like a random position. Like say, for example, like this is going to be really small, but like I'm in center of zone right here, and there's 12 to 15 people left. If you're on a tall mountain, you're going to be able to see most of the zones. So you're just going to hold your positioning, because once again, the main part of Fortnite is once again to get like placement. Most games, most tournaments require you to get higher placement in order to do good. And yes, kills do matter, but 10 to 15 people left, it's worth it to go for more placement. You can still go for kills, but once again, you guys should just do the simple thing of rotating early and position holding. And then another thing on top of that is most people treat every stage of the game the same way. So they'll treat the off spawn like, oh, we need to get a kill off spawn. Then they'll get into mid game and they'll think, oh, we need to get another kill in mid game. And then they'll go into the end game and they'll be like, oh, we need to get another kill, when their main priority should be staying alive. So like, and I've done this many times in tournaments, me and my duo have. It's like say for example, we're in this box and there's 10 teams left, and this is where most of the placement is going to actually like help us. Me and my duo have done this so many times where we have good loot, good mats, good weapons, everything. We have movement, we're set. All we need to do is rotate and box up. But we'll take like these little like dumb fights just because we get greedy and we want to kill. What we should be focusing on is the end of the game and trying to get that win. So we should like tarp out, create more boxes and all that stuff. And a lot of you guys treat basically every part of the game the same, which you guys should definitely not do. Another thing you guys need to think about is, and I kind of talked about positioning before, but it's like pressure awareness. So you know how I told you guys earlier on that like you're rotating and you want to look around while rotating and stuff like that. There's an even deeper like level to this. It's like if you're rotating and you're rotating in a pretty like flat terrain and you don't see anyone around you, but let's say there's a mountain, like let's just say this is going to be a mountain and we're coming around the mountain like this, we've got to be ready. Your main priority should be focusing on the things behind this mountain or on top of this mountain, instead of looking back this way, because you already have cleared this area while running up and you don't know if someone's going to be behind this angle or not. So it's like knowing who's behind here, when they're going to be behind there, if someone's behind there. That's another thing you guys need to do. And then on top of that, it's just like pre-aiming. A lot of you guys don't pre-aim when you're like walking around a mountain. Like if, for example, if the mountain's still right here and you think there's a player behind it, or you hear an audio cue and you know there's someone behind it, you want to pre-aim around the corner. A lot of you guys will just run across like this and then turn later on, but you guys want to actually pre-aim the corner because it will give you a way faster opportunity to get a shot off. And once again, on top of that, you guys will need a good loot for that. And we already talked about with weapons and stuff, but I want to talk about your inventory and what your actual win conditions are. So when we talked about weapons, I told you guys to know everything about the new weapons, everything like that. But it's also like knowing, am I good enough with these certain weapons? Like if you don't have the exact loadout you want, or it's like, are these weapons good enough to actually win a fight against someone that does have good weapons? Or noticing what win condition you might have. For example, if you have max mats, but your like shotgun's not that good or anything like that, you still have max match, which is a good win condition. But the other opponent might have a gold shotgun, which is another great win condition. So it's just stacking up win conditions on top of another player. And then it's also thinking about like, if you do have gray loadout and horrible heals, it's like, and you're in a fight, you're like, well, can I actually win the fight against this person? Do I need to avoid fighting this person for a sec and possibly go find more loot? And is my priority to fight this player or get surge and get out or play for rotations? So for example, if you have a low mats, like if you have like 100 builds and you only have a shotgun, you do not need to take 50-50 fights at all, because if you do hit that shotgun shot off, but they do get in your box, you're screwed either way because they probably have an SMG or AR. But if you have like AR heals mobility, you can take more fights because you have more opportunities to get into the player's face. You have a win for the 50-50 condition. You have mats, you have heals. So if something does go wrong, you can still reset and re-engage, if that makes sense. So it's just thinking like that. And you usually only have to think about these things at the beginning of the game, or if you get rebooted, or if your teammate gets rebooted, so forth, stuff like that. Another thing you guys need to think about is your rotation risk. So like a safe rotate, usually you can be on the edge of zone. So for example, like let's just say this box is where you are and this box is the, like just from here over there is the edge of zone. And this side is like heavy congested side. You should have a pretty free rotate. You should probably be able to build a little bit while you're rotating, but on this way, your risk is very low because there's no one on this open side. There's also like medium risk, which is like if you had to rotate from here and let's say that is the place you have to go to, you have to rotate kind of more towards the congested side. Even if you do rotate around this area right here, you're still in way more people's sight lines rotating out this way. And obviously you can use different movement and stuff besides just running or tarping or anything like that, but that's still a medium risk. And then once again, high risk is like, for example, you are on congested side and no one's rotated yet, and you try and rotate from there to there. You're very high risk because anyone can look at you, anyone can just get on top of you and stuff like that. Now I'm going to kind of get into like fighting game sense and awareness and like defensive game sense and awareness. I have 2 previous videos, like I've said before, about like defensive mechanics and offensive mechanics and just overall mechanics. But these are going to be kind of like some of the game sense that goes into those things. So before every fight you guys take, you guys should talk or think. I mean, obviously you should talk to your duo about it, but if you're in solos, you should think like, am I trying to kill this person fast? Do I have to kill this person fast? Or can I take a slower and controlled fight that I take less damage but still get the kill? Do I need a refresh or not? Am I fighting like an isolated kill? Like, is there a very high third-party involvement? So like if you're fighting in the center of zone, your third-party involvement is going to be way higher. So you guys need to be more careful of that. So like if I'm fighting right here, the third-party involvement is going to be way less than if I was fighting, for example, over there. And then you also need to think about while you're in that fight, am I baiting this fight? Am I forcing this fight? Or am I doing a little bit of both? Stuff like that. And a lot of things that bad players do is they just fight to fight. And 90% of like players fight for a reason, unless you're just Peterbot going for kills. But yeah, most good players fight for a reason, fight for something they need, or other things like that. Another thing you guys need to know is damage tracking. So you should always know, for example, how much you hit them for, what the builds around them are, how much each weapon does to builds, like we talked about earlier. So you know exactly what you need to do in order to get that kill. So if you hit someone for 150, but then you hear them heal up for another 50, then you hit them for another 50, you know they're at 100 health. So they were still one shot to a shotgun. You guys need to be able to track that damage. And if you are in duos, trios, once again, you need to actually calm that damage to your teammates. And please do not give fake comms. Another thing like that is like knowing how much heals they have. If you hear them hit 6 minis, that means they're probably out of minis. If you hear them hit 3 big pots, they're probably out of bigger heals and they only have minis left over. So it's just things like that. That's damage tracking or heal tracking, or mat tracking is like, oh, well, they just ran out of wood because mid box they switched to brick. It's like stuff like that, or if they just switched from brick to metal, they're probably low on mats, or they're trying to hold their positioning and they don't really want to take that fight, or they're just trying to heal really fast, if that makes sense. So if you hit someone 120 damage, they are either going to be forced to heal or basically to die because you can just pressure. So that means you have like a 5 to 8 second window that you guys can have really good aggression. But that also means if that 5 to 8 second window closes and you're still fighting, you're putting yourself in a horrible position because, once again, third parties, you could get damaged again, and then you're the person that has that 5 to 8 second aggression window against them, and so it's just not very good. Another thing you guys need to focus on is reset timing awareness. So you need to know when to disengage instantly after damage. And that can either be damage against you or damage on someone else. If you get hit for like 60 to 100 damage, usually I would back off and try and get 1 mini off or some sort of heal. Because if you go and fight and you're at 140 to 160 health, the person could just full box you and literally hit you with a singular pump and you will die. So you guys want to be at a health where you guys are able to fight without being basically one pumped at any point in the match. So it's stuff like that, but it's also like if you only hit someone 40 and you know you're going to get third partied, or you see a third party, it's probably a better idea to back off, disengage, rotate out, reset, and then come back than it is to continue the fight even though you hit them 40. And that could even be if you hit someone 120, it still might be the better idea to rotate out and disengage than it is to take that fight because you are possibly going to get third partied. And there are so many different situations. I can't cover all of them. I'm just covering the basics of them, but you guys can take these basics and basically apply them to your gameplay and figure out which works best for you. Okay, now we're going to go into some more of the defensive game sense type stuff. And I want to talk about like the don't be first target rule. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering what that is. Well, let's say you're boxed up. Don't be the first person to shoot. Like if you're in an end game, don't be the first person to shoot, dude. Unless you have a free angle on them. Because, well, if you open up and you shoot at someone, everyone else in the end game is going to know you shot, and they're probably going to either take out that duo or they're going to come after you because you have an edit open and your wall will be low when you reset. Next is don't be the first to rotate out in the open. I watched a pro team do this the other day, and they were never first to rotate, but they were also never last. So don't be first or last, be in the middle because it makes you blend in more than it would if you were to go first or last. And then don't be the first person to take height, because once again, a lot of you guys take height way too early on in end games. In the sense of like a regular fight, taking height early on is okay, especially if you have a good amount of mats. But like in end game, don't take height in like the 7th zone. It's just, you're gonna run out of mats before you get into the 12th zone, and people will be able to take height if you can't constantly get refreshes. So just be super careful about that, because it is a super strong position, but it is also a very weak position if you cannot constantly keep height. So another thing you guys need to do is damage avoidance. Now, when I tell people what they need to fix in fights, I usually tell people the main goal of a fight is to kill the opponent without taking any damage or wasting as much of your stuff as possible. So the main goal of a fight is, once again, to edit out, full box them, for example, shoot them, don't let them hit you. Once again, edit open and shoot them and kill them. You used barely any mats, you used 2 shotgun shots, and you didn't get hit at all. That would be the perfect ideal fight. Most fights will not be like that. You will get damaged and everything like that, but the main thing is you guys need to get the most amount of damage on your opponent without them hitting you, and you guys need to be able to basically finish fights fast enough to the point where you're not wasting all your loot, because if you do get third partied, once again, you're just cooked right off the start of that third party. Another thing you guys need to do is, like, for third parties, once again, is changing layers before the third party actually gets there. So example, if you're fighting on height, you're up here and you're like cranking and you're about to kill this kid that's up above, but you hear someone start shooting at you or the other opponent, the best idea would be able to drop down and like box up, because you will not be the one targeted. The person at the top that's healing will be the person that's targeted, and then you can once again reset and heal up and then re-engage if you need to. And then another thing which a lot of you zero build players have to use, I know this is not necessarily the best thing for zero build players because I do build a lot, if you guys can see, but using terrain before builds, and you have to use zero build for this. Now, I will always hate on zero build because it is not the real version of Fortnite, and I will forever stand by that. But I recently have been playing zero build because it is teaching me to, first of all, get better aim. It helps me a lot with my aim, recoil control, and stuff like that. But it also teaches me how to use terrain and scenarios of weakness. So, for example, once you run out of mats in a real game, your next best option is terrain. But if you even don't have to use your builds before you can get into a fight, if you can like sit on a rock and peek over it and get a lot of damage and then hide behind it, even if you do get damaged, that's a lot better than wasting a bunch of builds to do that same amount of thing. So I recommend actually playing zero build. Don't main it, but it's a good way to learn how to rotate better, get better positioning, hide behind terrain, use your terrain better, get better aim, all of those certain things. But once again, then you need to take that and apply it into your actual build games. And then another thing with that is on defense, sometimes the best defense is offense, and I talk about this in my other video as well. But if you're getting pushed and he's been shooting at you, trying to push you, pressure you on a wall, getting some damage on him in return is going to be the best defense. It just will be, because then it puts them on the defense and you on the offense. Another thing is you guys need to always have an escape route. Always. There's no reason you shouldn't have an escape route, whether that's either having a lot of builds, either being able to go through a porta potty, being able to go down or up a mountain, being able to hide in a cave, anything. That might even be like an area where you have 4 boxes just like this. If you're getting pressured heavily, you can just go into. So like you need to have one safe exit route of any fight. You need to have one emergency drop route. So if your first place is contested and you want to go somewhere uncontested, you go somewhere else uncontested, one of the multiple drop spots that you should have. And then once again, one fight reset option, which is like the multiple boxes. And then on top of that, which we just talked about with all these boxes, is you need to have pre-box awareness. So you need to know when someone is about to jump in from the top of your box. So like just doing like this. When someone is looking at you for pre-fire, once again, doing this. Or when someone is baiting your edit. For example, I like to do this a lot where I like have my stare like this, and I'll just sit here with my shotgun out and I'll bait the edit and I'll jump up and then break their wall, and then once again just take it and shoot them. So you need to be aware of when people do that. But yeah, those are basically some of the more intricate things for game sense and awareness. They're more like specific, scenario specific, but I think you guys could utilize them in other ways. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video or it helped you out in any way, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know if I missed anything. I did write a lot down and I kind of go over it, and I'm kind of like here and there in some of the parts. So if I did miss anything, please comment down below so that I can put it into the full and final version, the long 1.5 hour video. But yeah, thank you guys for taking time out of your day. Make sure to use code FLOWN in the Fortnite item shop if you guys want to help support me. I love you all. Thank you all for the support once again, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.